Hey, Chamber members, Alan Waters here, your Director of Marketing Communications in the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce and your Words of Wisdom podcast. Today, I am joined by
Nathan.
Wait, Nathan, and tell us who you're with.
So I work for Grand Home Furnishings here in Christiansburg, Virginia.
Okay. And Nathan, the first question I ask absolutely everyone, at least their first time on, what does success mean to you?
Oh, goodness. You know, I tell you what, in our industry, we are a service industry. So success for me is helping people accomplish what they come into our store for.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what kind of led you to where you are? Has Grand been where you've been your entire career, or is this, how did that process go?
So interesting to me story. I graduated out of college. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life. I had an acquaintance friend, and she said, Nathan, you ought to come to Grand and work for a while. It pays pretty good money, at least until you figure out what you want to do with your life. That was 26 years ago.
All right.
And so, to be perfectly honest, I don't think too many people go through life saying, I want to be a furniture salesman or I want to work in furniture. And so it wasn't an aspiration or anything. But as I started working there, over time, I recognized what Grand does for the people in our community, and it actually is a very honorable and wonderful job. Not beyond meeting great people in our community, you get to help them do something which is probably, in my opinion, one of the most important things that people do for themselves, and that is help them find the thing for their home that brings comfort and solace and just security.
Mm-hmm. So with the 26 years, was there any points in those times where you're like, well, maybe, or did it start off, you were like the first year in and you fell in love? How did that, what did you start as? What was your first position?
Thank you for that question. And I tell you what, I'm a little bit embarrassed to even say this, but when I first started working there, again, I had just graduated out of college. And of course, you have ambitions and dreams of saving the world and doing all of these fantastic things. When I first started working there, I was a little bit embarrassed to tell people that I was a salesman at Grand Home Furnishings selling furniture. And it probably was a year or so into it where it really kind of began to change. The owners of our company are really community oriented. They are always, customer absolutely comes first. And the people that worked there had been career individuals. They loved what they did. They saw the value in what they did. And even after that first year, I won't say that I fell in love with it, but I learned to respect it. Okay. When people go through life, one of the first big purchases they do for themselves, I would say, that has meaning is a car. That car represents freedom and mobility and their ability to go out and discover who they're going to be in the world. And then hopefully shortly after that, they are starting to gear up for independence. And so then they go looking for an apartment or a home or what have you. Now that apartment and home is the very thing, it's a big part of their identity. It's who they are. I mean, if you think about it, everything that you put into your home, whether it's an apartment or a house, you picked it. It's coming from you. It's a part of you. So when you walk into that space, it's all about you, or it should be. And so I mentioned earlier, I've always kind of wanted to help people. When I was younger, I wanted to save the world. And when I mentioned that I might have been a little bit embarrassed to say I worked at furniture, I didn't recognize what they did. I was ignorant.
Right.
I had no idea what they did. Most of the time you think about that pushy salesperson who's just looking to harass you and bother you and try to make you buy something that you don't want to buy. For all the listeners and viewers out there, please hear this. It's not that way at my store. We do want to help you. We do want to talk to you, but we're not trying to push things on you.
Right.
We want to help you realize and discover so that when the next time you go and walk through your door, it makes you smile in your heart. I don't know how many of you recognize this or have ever thought of this, but when you live your life, you kind of live it in two ways. You think about everything that you do and every choice that you make. So, you're kind of living through life through your mind. But then the other part of life that you live through is in your heart. It's the things you feel and emotions. They could be happiness, sadness, anger, what have you. And you need both of those frames of mind to find the thing that's going to bring you happiness.
Right.
And so my goal that has really been for almost all of my career, and the goal of all of my people are to help people realize so that when they walk through that door, they not only think that they're in a great place, but they feel like they're in a great place.
I feel like there's so much that goes into really almost all service industry jobs. Like you said, most of us, when we were kids, we dreamed about being a police officer, an astronaut. We didn't dream about being a furniture salesman, being a manager at a restaurant. But those are the people that when you go in have such an impact on how you feel about yourself, how you feel about the things you own. And you're right, going home and being able to look at what you've got, it is a reflection of your personality, the kind of things that you value, the kind of the comfort, the style. With your position now, you're the general manager. What was that kind of process of getting into the management side of things? When did that kind of come along?
So I started as a salesperson, and take another little side story, interesting story. So I had started working, been there about 3 days, and one of my coworkers had come up and approached me, and she started talking to me for about 5 or 10 minutes or so. And at the end of it, she said, "You know what? You seem like a nice young man, but we don't need another salesperson." Okay. So back then, things were competitive. And I would say that even though we all still serve the same purpose, taking care of that customer and making sure that their needs were being met, I would say that we did not have the connection with each other the way that we do today. As a matter of fact, early as a salesperson, I began to try to develop alliances with my coworkers because I felt like I couldn't always be there every day. And I wanted to make sure that other people could look out for me too when customers come back and ask for you and that type of thing. And so the philosophy back, again, this is like quarter century ago, it's a long time ago, was you're kind of on your own as sales, you're kind of independent, you got to work all these hours, otherwise you may not get your folks to come back. And I just did not want to believe in that. So I developed a lot of relationships, things got pretty good for me. And then my boss actually invited me to come into management. And for years I would joke around and tell people, well, that was one of the biggest mistakes of my life. Of course, managers are always responsible, and they're always taking care of things when the problems arise and that type of thing. But I think I've been suited for that position. I like troubleshooting. I like turning things in a positive direction when everything, we're human.
Right.
Okay? Yeah. And there's a lot of working parts to this, both at the store level, the delivery level, and everything. And I like looking at something and saying, okay, well, that didn't work. What can we do to make it better? How can we make the situation better for you? And so I brought my belief that, one, we could be not only looking after the customers, but we could look out for one another. So for anyone that comes to visit my store, you're going to see people that do want to not only help you, but help each other. And it's a very relaxed environment. It's a very comfortable environment. And, truly, we are here to serve you, and we hope that you feel comfortable and open enough that you can really not tell us kind of what you want. Sometimes I think people come in the store and they're nervous, okay? Because keep in mind, again, this is for their home, and people judge people.
Right.
And so they may have an idea of what they want, but they're a little uneasy about opening up about it because they might be nervous. I hope people don't feel that way if they can come into our store, because the more information that you can give us, the better that we can help you find what you're looking for. Over the years, we have changed our store and transitioned our store, and it looks completely different now than it did 20 years ago. It looks completely different now than it did 5 years ago. It's very open. There's a lot of pathways to walk around. We've got more furniture now than we've ever had before, more selection. And it's easy to walk by something and just miss it. People who work for me, I have people that have been with me for 20 years. I have people that have been 10 years. I mean, over half my crew has been with me like a decade or more. And even they miss things. Things have been on our floor for like a year and a half, and they think it's brand new because I shifted the store around a little bit. Sometimes
it's just that perception. So have you been at the Christiansburg store the entire time?
I have. I've been at that location, which has really been a unique experience, I think.
Yeah.
I know this area. I know these people, and to see the changes over the years and has been fascinating to me. Every day is different. Every day is unique. If any of you are out there listening, there's a possibility I might have been out to your house helping you fix a lift chair or a recliner or a piece of furniture, or, helped you. We've delivered furniture from our store. Most of our deliveries come out of our warehouse in Roanoke, but we have a small truck, and sometimes when the warehouse can't do it, we'll do it. That's kind of how we work there.
And has the store always been right here next to Lowe's, or has that moved around?
Well, I started working in 1998, and best as I recall, I think that store opened up like 5 or 6 years or so before that. So mid to early 90s, it opened up. They did have a store in Blacksburg for a number of years. We also had a store in Radford for a number of years, but that was before me.
Right. And so with the community, did you grow up here? How was that connection? How did that come about?
Growing up, my dad was in hospital administration. We moved all over the country. I actually was born in Oklahoma. Okay. But don't remember any of it. Then we moved to Michigan. That's kind of where I would say I grew up until like the 4th grade. Then we moved to Virginia, and we've been all over Virginia. But I came here to go to school in 1994. Again, I graduated. I've been here ever since. So I've been here long enough. To me, this is my home. Yeah. Not born and raised, but this is my home. I love this area.
Yeah. I hate to put a number on it, but 94 was when I was born. So
making me feel old. Yeah.
So, all right, we're going to take a quick break, but when we get back, I want to talk a little bit about what that 26 years has meant in the changing landscape of furniture, but also just kind of retail in general.
Okay.
At Grand, they will always go above and beyond to make you happy. When you go into any of their stores, you're met at the door with a smile by someone who's happy to help you find exactly what you want, or to let you discover all that's inside on your own. Either way, they will do everything they can to make sure you're happy before and after the sale. It's easy to find the perfect room to share with family and friends, because at Grand, you'll find all the latest styles in the area's best selection. You'll find it at the guaranteed lowest price and at a great deal. It's all part of their mission to make you happy. That mission of happiness goes back over 110 years to their beginnings in Roanoke, Virginia. Now they're one of the largest furniture and mattress chains in the South, with 18 convenient locations in Virginia, West Virginia, and Tennessee, providing the best furniture and mattresses. Find your happy at Grand Home Furnishings. For more information, go to grandhf.com. That's grandhf.com. Back to the episode. All right, we are back, and before we dive back into the rest of the episode, as I've been doing a lot, it's a little different when they're the sponsor. Want to shout out Grand for the furniture that we've got here that makes this room a lot more comfortable, keeps this floor from being quite so echoey. It was fun telling Steve, I remember asking for all of this, and he was like, why do you need a rug? And I was like, well, because otherwise this room is just going to be so echoey. But thanks, Grand, for doing that. All right, so the store being there 26, 30 years really in that scheme of things, this landscape really has shifted from 1998 to today in terms of how people go about buying their furniture, how they go about purchasing anything really. And the day we're recording this is also, I know there are protests going on that are like, don't go into any stores, buy anything on this date. How has that impacted how your staff, kind of operates? How has that impacted, you mentioned it used to be a much more competitive landscape. How has that kind of shifted as the online and the internet has really changed?
I think I referenced earlier, every day is new and every day is a learning experience. And we are doing our best to adapt to the online culture of things. We do have a website. And everybody has their philosophy of things. I find it fascinating to me that anybody would buy a mattress online. Okay. And the reason I say that is every person is absolutely unique. Okay. So what feels good to you for a mattress may not feel at all good to me as a mattress. You need to lay on it. You need to test on it. And I will tell you, after all the years that I've been doing this, even coming into a store and laying on it for 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes is not going to give you the best indication of how something is going to sleep. And so, but what coming into the store will do, you can narrow your search. You know, for instance, we have 70 plus beds in our store. We have the largest selection of bedding in the NRV. If you came in and tried to lay on all 70 of those beds, you would become so confused and they would all begin to feel the same and you wouldn't know. So having the expertise of someone sitting there with you and talking it through with you and talking about the things that affect you, you can really help to narrow that search down. And laying on it, you certainly are going to get a better feel than if you go and try to buy something online. You know, in most cases, price-wise, we are actually absolutely competitive with most things online. And going back to your question a little bit, in a way that we've transitioned a little bit, at one time, we used to price match anything that was from a brick or mortar store within 100 miles of one of our establishments. Well, in today's world, there are a lot of businesses out there that will deliver further than 100 miles from one of our establishments. And so we are absolutely competitive in a way that we can price match most things. Every once in a while, you'll get something that's out there and kind of crazy that we just can't absolutely do that. But it's few and far between.
Right. And then I know also, I never experienced this because I didn't move here until after COVID. But I know something that Grand was known for was the Cokes and the machines. When we did the business after hours, I know that y'all brought those out and we had the bottled Cokes. What was kind of the intention or origins behind that? And then I know it shifted because of COVID, but how has that kind of fluctuated and changed post-COVID for you as well?
Right. So we're still in a bit of a state of flux. That Coca-Cola was brought to Grand, if I'm not mistaken, back in the 50s. And it was kind of a fluke thing. As their grand opening, they decided they wanted to give something to their customers. In their mind at that time, it was going to be a one-time deal. And they had so many people come out, and they gave so many Cokes out, and it was such a big surprise. They were like, we're going to keep doing this. So for all those years, they kept giving that Coke out. And I mentioned I've been here for 25, 26 years. We've been giving Cokes out all the way up into COVID. And because of COVID, because of the fear of transmitting anything, they made the right, responsible decision to say, okay, we're going to hold off, we're going to hold back. Now, they haven't brought it back yet. There's a lot of logistical things involved in that. Do we want to hand somebody a Coke even today? Do we want to open up the risk of that anymore? Do we do a machine where they can get it themselves? Where before Coke supplied us with those machines, they collected all those machines. I don't know what they've done with it. The owners are still considering that. So we might one day see those Cokes being handed out again. I'm kind of hopeful that they do. Little secret though, if anybody comes into our store and they get really parched or need a drink, don't tell anybody this, but we do have bottled water that we can get for you. We don't openly hand it out, but we do have
it. Still have it there.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to really what you were talking about with the in-person versus online. There's a level of that customer service that you just cannot and will not ever be able to get online. There's that personal connection that even if handing somebody a bottle of Coke, that's not something you're going to get from an online retail only. But at the same time, like you said, you gotta have a website. It's not something where anymore you can just forego those things. It's a part of the culture. It's a part of what goes on. So on the employee side, you mentioned the fact that it's not as competitive anymore. Is that because the structure of pay, the structure of how the work is done is different, or has it just been a natural shift in what the company culture is?
No, I don't. I want to be careful with this because I don't necessarily want to speak for the entire company of Grand. Now, there have been some. One thing with Grand hires from within. So we have stores all over Virginia. We've got 18 different stores. And sometimes, like I know one person in particular, I won't say her name, she'll know who she is. She used to work at our store, and now she works at our flag store, Valley View store. And so the philosophies we've developed over the years together, it can migrate out to Grand as a chain. And I want to be careful when I say that it's not as competitive. It's just a different type of competition.
Right.
There used to be a mindset that I had to watch out for all of my other colleagues, because if I wasn't there and they got my customer, that they would get the sale.
Right. Yeah.
And again, the customers were always being taken care of, and they don't need to know about that. But Grand, on the other side of things, they're really savvy and they're really smart. Now, we are a commission-based sales pay. And if I was new to Grand and starting, I would say I would probably prefer an hourly rate. That way you're secure, you know what you're going to get. But the motivation isn't there necessarily to do better. You're guaranteed amount of pay, so you don't really have to work hard. But when you're commission pay and you're relying on what you sell to a customer, then it becomes more meaningful to you on so many levels. And as I was mentioning, over the years, the best way, somebody once told me when I first started, the best advertising is word of mouth. Better than any marketing that you can get online, on the television, on newspapers, whatever. It's word of mouth. When you treat somebody good and when you treat them special, and for me, I'm going to use a word that has a lot of meaning. It's called discovery. Okay, I mentioned earlier when a person buys their car and what that means, that mobility and that freedom to go out and discover the world. Anytime someone goes out and they're looking for something, that moment that they find that thing that connects kind of with their heart, that's a huge thing, right? Huge. And so when someone has a good experience and they feel that connection, they're going to tell everybody, you need to go. They may not be able to put it in words like that, but they're going to say, you need to go see so-and-so because I had such a good experience with them over there. And they always take care of us. They always, even after the sale, they didn't have to do that, and they did it anyway. We have, I know I'm kind of rambling and going on, we have people come into our store all the time, and they're looking for a bolt on something they bought 20 years ago. They don't make that piece of furniture anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit there and promise everybody, you come in looking for a bolt from me, I'm going to be able to find it. But we have stockpiles and things in that store, and it's amazing sometimes what you find.
Yeah.
And then to be able to help somebody out, and I think it's kind of huge.
The integrity of being able to say, hey, we might have it, we might not, but then giving them that bolt versus it being, well, we don't have the bolt, but I do have this on the floor. I'll give that personal experience of we came in, we were looking to buy a crib, and y'all helped us out a lot in making sure that we got the right one that we were looking for. It had the right coloring, that it matched what else was going to be in the room. I think we also ended up buying a dresser table from y'all for the same thing. It matched what we were looking. It wasn't the same set, but you helped a lot with just getting those pieces that really do make the difference when you've got that in your house. And I also will say, I don't mean to say that in the competition, but I think what you talked about where it's getting to that point of, hey, I'm off that day, we're still being able to help each other out, because at the end of the day, it's the customer that matters more than anything else. I've mentioned this quote a couple of times on the podcast this season. The customer is always right quote, that really the full quote is, the customer is always right in terms of taste. In a place of furniture, in a place of that, how does that impact what you're doing? Because again, you're doing what people want and what they're after. So how do you kind of take your taste out of it and let that guide what the customers want?
I'm going to try to answer that, and hopefully I won't get off on a strange or weird tangent, okay? I recently put up our mission statement, and the first part of our mission statement is discovering dreams. Second one is fulfilling projects. Third one is finding your happy. Okay, so when customers come into our store, they have a dream. They have something they want. They don't always are able to articulate it. So they say, well, I'm just looking, or I'll know it when I see it. Okay, and they'll know it when they see it because, again, they'll feel that pang in their heart or whatever that really connects with them, right? That's what they're hoping to find. And your question about the customer always being right, okay, so from a retail perspective, if the customer's unhappy, then you're wrong. If they leave feeling unhappy or unfulfilled, then you have failed them. Okay, so sometimes I'll just give an example. Let's say, and I'm making this up, but let's say a piece of furniture breaks, and you may know because they told you. You see them as they walk around the store, and they're plopping super heavy down into a sofa, just dropping in, and you can hear things crack and stuff like that. That coming down like that led to the frame breaking.
Yeah.
Now, you can argue with them and say it's your fault because the way you plopped down in that sofa, and that's why it broke. But they're still unhappy.
Right.
And it broke, right? So, how do we handle something like that? We really want to give a broad spectrum of everything that we have to offer, and we try, and this is the thing that you're never going to get on the internet. They're never going to talk to you about these things, to try to set an expectation. Okay, we have a $300 sofa, okay, and that sofa, you can expect it to last 2 to 3 years with normal use. Some people use it a lot more. You may only get 1 year of use out of it, right? And we're never going to lie to you. We're never going to tell you something to give you a false expectation of something.
Right.
Okay, you have another piece of furniture that is built a whole lot stronger and a whole lot better and can take those higher impacts and things. And we're going to tell you about the features and benefits of things so you can make a good decision. But I'm never going to tell you it's your fault.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. It's just a matter of that. And sometimes you're in that spot and that's what you can afford. That's what you can do at that time. Sometimes you have that ability to go through and do the other things. I mean, I remember being, fresh out of college in New York. And if I'd walked into somewhere, I never would have thought about that because I had $100 piece of furniture from Amazon that was made of tubes and barely held together. Sometimes that's just a matter of where it is. Well, where can everybody find you? It's been in the same place, so they should know it. But where can they find you in the store? Where can they find the website? Any with social media? Any of those things?
So our store here in Christiansburg, and you can travel from anywhere. We have people from West Virginia come our way. We have people out from Wytheville come our way. I mean, we have people travel a long way just to come specifically to our store. I have some of the most wonderful people and people that you can absolutely trust. And that's the biggest thing, really. Finding someone that you can trust to give you what information you need. Again, something you're not going to get online, that personal experience. So we're at 220 Laurel Street here in Christiansburg, Virginia. If you're familiar with Christiansburg, we are literally right next door to Lowe's. We are across from the Outback restaurant. We've been here since mid-1990s, have no intention of going anywhere. As I mentioned earlier, we remodeled our store here recently and are looking to stay. I don't know if any of you have ever had this experience. And again, you referenced it earlier. I'm getting old now. I'm not the young guy anymore.
I don't think I said those exact words.
Well, yeah, I know. That's all right. It's pretty close. It's true, unfortunately. If you've ever gone and tried to search anything online, I remember a time when you can type in your keyword search and you would get 10 or 12 different things and they would be on spot, on par. But it seems like these days you do that and you're looking at like 10 to 12 pages of things before you find anything remotely close to what you really wanted. So when you come into the store, you can wander around. You could spend hours in that store and never find what you're looking for. Or, you certainly can talk to one of our skilled folks and they can probably take you right to it.
Yeah. And what's the website and all those things as well?
Sure. It is www.grandhf.com. Be kind of careful. Now, there is a Grand Furniture in Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay.
That is not us. But some folks do that and see that all the time over the years. And that is not us.
Just get that confused.
Yeah.
Well, grandhf.com.
So,
well, thank you so much, Nathan, for being here. Thank you all for being great neighbors. I mean, whether it was our bed build, donating things there, when Hurricane Helene came up, I was very pleasantly surprised walking into the office one day, seeing your sign, proud members of the Chamber of Commerce. So you've been great neighbors. We appreciate everything you've done. Appreciate the furniture here. But thank you so much for being on here today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for moving right next door to us and helping us become more active in the community. It has been a good experience.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Make sure you like, download, subscribe, all of those things so that you see when we post new episodes. You see the Lunch and Learns, Eggs and Issues, all the things that we've got coming out, content this year. In the meantime, go out, invest, connect, engage, and prosper.